Oh, I have to start it again, sorry. Okay, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So last time we were talking about different kind of structures of organization, and firstly we went through vertical and horizontal flows of information in an organization, and then we talk about functional grouping, divisional grouping, and here functional one, the very traditional approach, and then we have the divisional structure when we categorize business units in different ways. For example, based on products, geography, something like that. And then we have the third kind, which is matrix structure. And last time we were here discussing the very, how say that, at the very beginning when we discussed the key characteristics of matrix structure and when we need it. So remember that we said that it is in grid form where we combine, let me show my screen, here, where we combine functional and divisional structure together. So the most important thing when we, how say that, the situation where we need to have such kind of combination is when you need to have or you need to develop different kinds of products, right? When we refer to them as different kinds of projects, and when it needs talents or personnel from different functions or different expertise to work together to deliver the final product. So I remember this is when Stella mentioned, right, when the company needs to work on different projects. And so when we need that is because firstly, when we don't have enough resource to allocate separately for each project. So we have to utilize what we have in each department, for example, R&D or marketing, blah, blah, and then we assign different members of each department to work in different projects. The second thing is because if you are working in an industry which has the environment that requires frequent new products initiative and the new products or features that we need to provide require in-depth technical knowledge, and that is why it needs the combination from R&D or manufacturing all together rather than just some certain like marketing or sales service team. And so the third one is that because it requires frequent changes and frequent or new ideas, so it requires high interdependence between departments. And so it means that it requires large amount of coordination and information processing vertically and horizontally. And that is why we have that kind of, grid form. And so, for example, we look at this one. This is a hypothetical arrangement that Ford might use to develop new products. So you can see that on the upper level, we say that it follows the functional structure, right? We have production, marketing, finance, and engineering. And so in the product structure, we will have on the left-hand side, we will have different kind of model to be developed. Ford Fusion, Ford Fiesta, or Ford Taurus. So for each of these projects, we will have personnel from production, marketing, finance, and engineering. So you can see that from the each red square that I put here, it will be the team that has the combination of personnel from both production and from the project's teams. Okay, so in here We have another example. You can see that this one we also have, it looks even more complicated. We have marketing, programming, and research. And also because of we have different teams, products teams, social media products teams or security products teams, for example, then we will have the combination where we have marketing together to have sales manager here for the social media products teams. And then we have social media chief programmer because we will have someone from the programming field. And then we will have social media basic research supervisor. And then because we have personnel from the research field. And of course, here supervisor or chief programmer only, but in here we also have the team, which means that we have other members under the supervision of these people in this specific expertise, and they'll work together to develop these different products. So the advantages of matrix structure, firstly, is the flexibility of sharing personnel, or we say HR, right? I think this one is quite obvious. The second thing is that because these people, they are working with people from other expertise in the same project. So they have the opportunity to have their product skill development, but also functional skill, because they keep working on, I'll say that they still have the chance to work on something that require or challenge their expertise. So that is why this kind of combination is quite good for employees development. And another one is that it can achieve coordination necessary to meet dual demands from customers. This is consistent to what I mentioned before when we say that the environment require frequent changes or initiatives. And that is why it can meet the dual demands, which means that something new and something fast. And another one is that this one, matrix structure, will be best or most suitable for medium-sized organization with multiple products. Of course, because if you have single product, you don't need matrix structure. Okay. If you don't, if you how say that? But if you have so many products and you have very big organizations, then having matrix structure may be too much, or it's too complicated to run, because there will be something how say that there are different kind of management costs that you have to handle together with the structure. So that is why next one we have to discuss something called disadvantages of matrix structure. So look back here in this structure. When we look at this graph, when we see that teams or people are shared flexibility, it's quite a good idea. So imagine if you work in such kind of team, what kind of challenge, what kind of difficulty that you may need to face. And that may be the disadvantage of matrix structure. So I want you guys to give me a few answers of disadvantage of matrix structure. Who can volunteer? Or I should call someone? Queen?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm thinking maybe it's about the disadvantages. I think it's may like it take more time for a team to make a decision.
Why?
same. Oh, because like when you see for example, design vice president have to in charge with 4 product, like um like that person have to control 4 product manager. So that person have to make sure that everyone are on the same page. Like
I think I understand what you're saying, but I think it will depend on what kind of decision. Why? For example, because you are having teams. So if for each product or each project, right, you have a team with, for example, 1 member each in terms of design, manufacturing, marketing, blah, blah. So when they have any kind of problem, these people can communicate very fast to each other, with each other. And so they can brainstorm and come up with a decision very quickly. So if in that way, I will not agree with you. However, if we look at the vertical line here, for example, you're saying that the manager, they have to spend time to make sure that they can catch up with what's going on in terms of design of the 4 products, then yeah, it could be, right? So I think I will add a little bit more in this way, is that it somehow it increased the time that managers have to spend in terms of meetings or to catch up with these people. So the way that they have to make, how say that, the time that they need to spend will be considered in terms of administrative or management costs, because they have to make sure that everyone's collaborate with each other, and so they will make the final decision relying and so it's, how say that, compared to relying on vertical authority at the very beginning. So it could be one kind of advantage, which means that the burden of those vice president is pretty huge. Okay, and so the meeting time that they have to spend on for different projects is also large, is also huge. So yeah, it could be one kind of disadvantage. But again, it depends on whose perspective that you are looking at. Okay, if we are looking at product or project decision, I have to emphasize that it's much faster compared to the traditional way of organizing. Okay, Queens is safe. How about others? Let me call someone else. Annie?
Yes.
Wow.
Should
Any idea?
yeah. I think like maybe this kind of metric, like the product one team have to like have to take care a lot of product, and then maybe that team like cannot work it. So
Wait. Why do they need to take care of many different products?
like in here, the example, the design vice president, they have to take care about product A, product B, product C, and product D. So if that team is like not good, everything it out, so maybe the result of the company will be not good. They will like the last time we study about mm, the like if we separate the product, like one team just take care one product, and if that product is not suggest, but the other products still like can work, something like that.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
It should be good, right, if you're explaining that way, because the failure of one project doesn't influence the survival or success of the other projects.
Yeah.
So it should not be disadvantage.
I think it's disadvantage because one team have to take care every kind of product, and then if that team is like cannot work it out, so maybe
Again, one team is working on one product.
yes. Okay. Sorry, I'm thinking. Sorry, pros.
Okay. Novita?
Yes, Professor.
Yeah, last time I
Yeah.
actually already told you an answer, right?
Yeah, like you say before, it's like maybe the teams that have the responsibility for the product A, but they have also in the below of the design vice president, so they have two supervisor or two manager they have to report in, so it can become overwhelmed to that team for reporting, or also confusing to like prioritize what the decision have to be done first.
Yeah, good. I told you I need to remember. Yeah, so you can
Yeah.
imagine that you guys are working in a team, in the design team of product A. So actually you will have you have two bosses. You have one is the product manager, your project manager, and the other one is your originally the manager from the design department. So sometimes this one is the most challenging, most obvious difficulty for people working in metric structure. They have sometimes it's confusing and they don't know for this kind of issue or this kind of decision, who should I report to and who should be the one in charge to make the decision. Okay, so and because they are engaged in various tasks and day-to-day activities, so companies spend quite a lot of time to make sure to design or to decide for each kind of decision who will be in charge, who will be the supervisor, or who has the more power in how say that controlling or telling the employees what to do. Okay, Novita, I want to ask another question. So do you have any other idea of what you have to deal with, or what you are required to work in this kind of structure?
Maybe the team have to clear the schedule of the project, or schedule of the priorities, so they can going what is harmoniously, so they can overwhelm, or also they can confusing about it.
So you're still talking about the confusion of authority, right? I mean, what you have to explain is still in the same point that we talk about, or it's another disadvantage?
I just add what the opinion before what it should be solved.
So you're saying that there should be priority.
yeah, that should be the schedule, clear schedule that agree with its design vice president and also the product manager a for that team, so it can be clear for that team to what the activities or what the project they have to be solved first.
Yeah, it could be, yes. So I agree, and how say that actually there's something that it's not about clear the schedule, because when you are totally, for example, in this picture, in this figure, in this example, if all the personnel are already assigned to different projects and there are no general projects of the original department, then they will not have conflicts in terms of schedule, but they do have conflicts in terms of like I mentioned, responsibilities and authorities. And we can base on that point to say that there's something very important for employees, not just in terms of managers about clear priority, but also for employees that they have to, how say that, they have to make sure how to deal with issues coming from different source and how to deal with people coming from different departments, or like Novita used the word work in harmony, right? It means that you have to make sure that because you are working not again with people not from your department, you're working for people coming from different departments. And remember before we mentioned that people from different departments will have different perspectives. So the way that they see things and the way they solve problem will be very different. And that is why when you work in such a diverse team, you will have conflicts. Conflicts will be unavoidable. And so in that case, you need to have very good interpersonal or conflict solve resolution skill. And so because of that, it's quite challenging for companies to follow metric structure because maybe their employees are not ready to work in such kind of collaborative and challenging environment. Okay, and so because of that, companies when they want to apply metric structure, they need to spend time training their employees and design the whole reporting system or collaboration system to make sure that everyone can work in harmony in this it how say that in this design. It doesn't matter if you see that okay, according to the products, according to the requirements from the environment, it should be the best way for us to design this way. It will not work if you only look at it from such kind of analysis, right? You have to look at your human factors perspective to see if what you're having, the talents that you're having, can, how say that, can cooperate and can feel comfortable working in that kind of environment. However, like I mentioned before, even though these people will have conflicts in the way they see things and in the way they work, however, because these are in terms of small teams, they can have the chance to directly communicate and they have the chance to directly share and come up with or make the decision together. So it's still doable for companies to apply metric structure with this, especially starting from a small scale firstly, which means that from a small teams, maybe for example here, one representing one expertise. And so it's kind of easy for them to have trial and errors and to make sure that people can adapt to this kind of environment. When it becomes more stable or how say that efficient, then companies can scale up. They still can follow this kind of approach, but for each team, it may include, for example, 10, 15, or even more higher numbers of employees. Basically, big companies, international companies, they apply metric structure a lot, and so that is why normally in their language, how say that, daily language terms, employees in matrix structure, they will say that they will have who is their dad number one, daddy, okay, father, one and two, and who is the great father, who is the great father number one, number two. So they can refer to those quite clearly because they already get used to that kind of structure, and it proves to work even in big company. However, again, it really depends on what kind of business, okay, and it kind of depends on, I'll say that maybe the companies will not apply for all the branches or for the whole big organization structure, but they will apply this kind of matrix structure for some certain division or some certain branch where they think that it could work perfectly. So now we look at it again. Disadvantages. Firstly is confusion in reporting system. Second is it requires employees to have good interpersonal skill, conflict resolution skill. And third is high administrative cost. This is Quinn's developed on Quinn's idea. And the fourth one is work overload. This is because, again, if your companies is having your, how say that, rather than those different products as projects, and used to have general projects for some stable or original, how say that, products offer, then it means that your employees may have to work at the same time in two different projects. And so this one will create more burden on the employees. And so it can become, how say that, it can make them have the burnout situation where it's too much for employees to handle, and they will, eventually they may fail to complete the task that they need to fulfill, both in terms of the projects and in terms of the departments. Now we move to another structure, which is even, how say that, is even more innovative in terms of organizing, which is called a horizontal structure. So the very basic principle of horizontal structure is that it organizes people around the core processes. So processes here means tasks and activities to transform inputs into outputs that creates value for customers. So maybe we'll look at an example for you to, how say that, imagine it can vividly. So you can see here we have two processes. The first one is new product development process, and the second one is procurement and logistics process. And so, for example, you can see that we have different teams for each process, and each team is in charge of different tasks or activities that contribute to the whole performance or operation of the process. And you can see that for each process, the purpose is to finally deliver the value to their customer. Okay, so in here, how say that, a horizontal process, you don't have departments, you don't have divisions or functional teams, but you have something, you have different teams that can be very different when they work in different process. For example, you can look at new product development process. You have research, you have product planning, you have testing. But when you come to procurement, you have purchasing, material flow, and distribution. So their tasks can be very, very, very different. And in here, the group of customers that they are serving from the new product development might be different from the group of customers that they are serving in the procurement and logistic process. Okay, and so for each process, you can see that we have something called process owner on the left-hand side. So this one can be one individual manager it also could be a team to play this role. So the characteristics of horizontal structure is that you will not have vertical hierarchy or departments. So the boundaries is kind of eliminated. And because it kind of, how say that, we don't have those things to assign people. We assign people based on what kind of process, what kind of activities are most important for us to deliver the value to the customers. So that is why we say that it kind of cut through the organizations horizontally. And so we have something as the process owners. So process owners here will be responsible for the for seeing or looking out for the whole process operation. But how say that, process owner here will not be someone like controlling, like a manager with the highest or biggest authority. No, process owner here is responsible for receiving information and making sure that all the teams will coordinate with each other. So they are more like coaching and consulting people or team to make sure everyone in this process can cooperate smoothly rather than controlling. And because of that, you can see that these teams are called self-directed team, which means that, for example, if you your team will have 5 members, then each member will be able to totally perform the task of the other 4 members. So that's why we say they are cross-trained, and that is why they can do job rotating. When anyone is not available or are in charge of some other specific task, then you will be the one cover their task with no problem. So that is why in this one, we say that this team will have the multi-task team members. And also because of that, they will have shared responsibilities. And together, they will make the decision. For example, the deadline, the schedule, what kind of thing that they want, that they will deliver and when, all of that. So that's why we say they are self-directed teams. Okay, and the culture of horizontal structure is based on openness, trust, and collaboration, because everyone is covering the same job and they have the same amount of responsibility, and they have to make the decision together. So to work well, they have to have such kind of culture. And so before we talk about strengths and weaknesses, I give you some examples that is suggested from the textbook. So for example, in insurance company, in handling claims, traditionally they will have what? When a customer had an accident, then they will report to an agent of the company, and so the agent will pass the information to the customer service representative. Representative now pass the claim to a claims manager, and the claims manager, they will collect all the similar claims, for example, all the claims from the same location or same territory. And so after that, they will assign to an adjuster, and the adjuster will be the one who go to the field to inspect the vehicle damage. So from having the accident to having the vehicle or to be inspected and get the response from the insurance company, how say that, a customer have to go through the information, have to go through different channels. So the time that they will need to wait to get the response will be very long. However, if the company organized in terms of horizontal structure, it means that maybe they will just see that, okay, the process that we have to go through to get the response to the customer. Actually, it's just to get the information, know what they have to do the inspection, and then directly respond to the customers. So they can, based on these main tasks or activities, they organize different teams. Maybe just 1 or 2 teams will be totally enough, rather than having agent, representative, claim managers, and then adjusters, at least 4, as the original one. So maybe they only have 1 team of adjusters, where 1 member will be the one in charge in receiving the claims calls, and the other one will be in charge in inspecting the vehicle. So in that way, the members who got the calls can try to get all the necessary information about the location, about the vehicle, and then the other one will be in the field and to inspect the vehicle as soon as possible. And of course, these 2 people are able to switch their job when necessary. So you can see that they don't have to go through middle channels. They are working in teams. What the inspector or the adjuster needs is totally accessible from the one who gets the call. And so the time that they get to, the time, the response that they will have to reply to the customers can be very fast. It reduced from, for example, 7 to 10 days can become just within a few hours. And so the key thing in this one is because the employees who work on the particular process, they are on the same team and they have access to the information that they need. Okay, and of course, the most important thing is they are willing to coordinate with each other. So another example is that before in GE company, there's one division that they have to manufacture something called the electrical lighting panel board. Whatever, it's just electrical kind of product, okay, for industrial and commercial purposes. However, the thing is that this kind of product, the customers of course will be companies, okay, they will have different requirements for the products. So there are no 2 customers that have exactly the same needs. And so it means that their product is somehow needs to be customized. So originally, they will have these products put in the same standard production process. So if you put it like that, then of course, everything, all the products will need to be stopped at some certain stage, some specific stage, where it needs to be customized. And after that, it can move forward to the finished stage. But because of that, there will be something called the bottleneck problem, right? Everything was just stopped and stuck there for a while until customization is finished. And so because of that, the companies suffer. They suffer from time delay, they suffer from the product line costs, and they suffer from the decreased satisfaction of the customers and even employees, because they feel quite annoying when they have to slow the process. So because of that, the company came up with the new horizontal structure where they put the whole process of building product with customization as a separate one. So they will have the whole new entire build to order process. So they have 4 teams work together, and each team was 10 to 15 members. Of course, they are multi-skill team members. So they have 1 as process owner. So it's kind of similar to what you see in this figure. So the process owner here will be 1 team. They will be the one receive information about the orders. They may do some planning, coordinating activities, blah, blah, blah. And so they have 3 other teams. 1 is for fabrication, 1 is for electrical components, and the other one is for maintenance or quality control. So these 4 teams, they can work together. Again, to reach the final goal is to deliver the value to the customers. So instead of having 6 weeks of lead time, where we say that the time when since customer order until they get the product, okay, that's the lead time. Originally it was 6 weeks, and after they have this one, it was reduced to 2.5 days. And so again, the result is that increased satisfaction of customers and employees. So that is why we say that it's quite, the collaboration in terms of teams in horizontal structure is quite, how say that, adaptive. It helps the organization to respond to the demand very quickly, because it doesn't focus on expertise. It focuses on whatever task that needs to be achieved or to be finished to deliver the value to the customers. So one thing I want to emphasize is that it's quite, the thing that it's different from matrix structure is because you can look at matrix structure here. You can look at matrix structure here. It's already a good way to combine resources. But the very different is, this is when the whole process to develop each product will be the same, which means that for A, B, or C, or D, it requires the same stage, like design, manufacturing, marketing, blah, blah, blah. And that is why you can have the personnel, how say that, directly assigned similarly to different projects. However, if you look at horizontal structure, like I mentioned before, you will have different requirements, different tasks to be finished in each process. So you cannot, for example, here you have research, but this one you don't have it. So that's the most important difference between matrix structure and horizontal. The way that they matrix structure is trying to adapt from the two traditional one in a more innovative way. But horizontal is when the organization try to assign their resources based on a very different approach, because they base on core processes rather than expertise, rather than authorities. Okay, so here we have some strengths and weaknesses of horizontal structure. So we can see from the left-hand side about the strengths of horizontal structure. First, it promotes flexibility and rapid response to changes in customer needs. This one is quite obvious, like in the examples that I mentioned to you guys. The second thing is that, the second and the third thing, it directs the attention of everyone towards the production and delivery of value to the customer. And at the same time, it let the employee has a broader view of organizational goals. Why do we say that? Because when you organize in teams and in each process, basically you are telling each employee why they are assigned in such kind of position. They will know exactly their contribution, in terms of for each activities and in each process. So they will also see what kind of process, what kind of activities are most important for our company to deliver the value. And so they can look at it from a broad view rather than comparing to the functional structure. They always see that, okay, we are in R&D, so we will contribute to the organization in terms of developing new products. However, in this one, you are very sure that you know that our companies are trying to deliver different kinds of values for different kinds of customers, for example. And so they go through it through which kind of processes. So the first one is it promotes focus on teamwork and collaboration. This one is quite obvious. Improves quality of life for employees by offering them opportunities and share responsibility, make decisions, and be accountable for outcome. So this is the advantage of having decentralized decision-making system, right? And so when we look at weaknesses, first is determining core process is difficult and time-consuming. Indeed, it is because how say that you can see that when you originally when we look at analyzing a business, we will see it in terms of functions. Of course, that one makes sense, and because of that, when you try to categorize what kind of process or what kind of activities that you need to go through to deliver the value to customer, maybe you will have something overlapped or something that you will miss out. So this one is quite different, it's quite challenging for manager to make sure that if they follow this way, they will, how say that, comprehensively cover everything necessary. Another thing is economies of scale, right? Because, for example, in metric structure, we try to make everything efficient when we utilize what we have in functions. But in this one, maybe you have to recruit so many different kinds of expertise in different fields to satisfy, to build teams suitable for specific tasks in specific processes. So this one is also quite challenging. And second is required changes in terms of culture, job design, blah, blah, blah. So like I mentioned before, it's not just the managers, but also they have to make sure that the employees are aware of how to work in a very new and complex work environment. And so it takes time for organization to adapt this kind of new culture. And the third one is because it's a decentralized decision-making system. So traditionally, managers who had a lot of power in their hands may not feel happy because they have to give up their authority. And of course, this one only happened when a company originally follow other kinds of structure, and now they want to go through transformation. Of course, if you are a new company and you directly adapt horizontal structure, you may not have this kind of problem. The fourth one is requires significant training of employees, and the fifth one is somehow it may limit the in-depth skill development. Okay. So look at this one. Somehow it could be true. Somehow it could be it could be wrong. Because if you are in a team, if you're working in research and always work in new product development process, basically you are seeing challenges in terms of from the requirements of your job every day. So it actually could help you to increase your expertise. But maybe, for example, if you are in the procurement or logistic process and what you are doing again and again is just including purchasing, and if it's quite a stable process or activities, then maybe you will not gain much expertise or in-depth knowledge. Especially this is because you are working in a team where your expertise is not required very high level, but the more important thing is you have to be able to cover the jobs of everyone else. So it means, again, it's a multi-skilled team. So you can cover a wide range of jobs, but it doesn't mean that you are excellent in either of them. So that is why it may happen that members in horizontal structure may not have the opportunities to increase their expertise. So the best way for companies to improve this one is to have those employees to go through frequent opportunities to go through training program from more professional courses or programs from the outside of the companies. Because you can see that even from inside of the company, if they are transferred to other processes, it doesn't guarantee that they will have higher expertise. They can learn even more different kinds of tasks or skills, but not their own expertise. Okay, so the most important thing, or the most possible one for companies with horizontal structure, is to let their employees to learn from other professional courses rather than from their own company. Okay, because it's quite diverse at a medium level inside the company. So I think that will be all for horizontal structure. And let's take a break and then we move to the next kind of structure. Okay. Okay, guys, let's come back. So now we move to the next one, which is called the virtual network. And actually, virtual network means that the company, the organization, may not perform most of its activities or functions by itself. So that's why this one is related to the outsourcing concept that we talked about in Daniel's presentation about the theory. So basically, when we say that an organization with a virtual network structure means the firms subcontracts most of its major functions and processes to separate companies, and they coordinate their activities from a small headquarters organization. So for example, that you may outsource your manufacturing, your R&D, your IT service, and your marketing to different companies. And so you only focus, your own companies only focus on product development. So, and some specific marketing tasks. So like, even for Nike, I think I mentioned few somewhere before, that they outsource mostly everything already, even in designing their shoes. Okay, so for the companies, when most of the functions are outsourced like that, we say that they apply a virtual network structure. So in here, we talk about advantages and disadvantages. And basically, it's about advantages when company mostly has its functions outsourced. So here, I want to ask, this one is quite easy. So what are the advantages for companies, for organizations when they engage in outsourcing? Michelle? And then I ask Sachin, and then I ask Ricky, and then I ask Esther, Sandra.
Wait a moment, Prof.
What? Sachin, any idea?
I think they don't have like to pay a lot because
It's fine.
Hello?
I think we have some.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think they don't have to like pay a lot because
Oh.
they can like they already have like their own employee like around the world.
So
Hello?
so they don't have to pay a lot.
Yeah, for the human resource.
Why? They still have to pay even they outsource.
Can I go first?
You can develop. We need to continue Michelle's idea. So if you can develop on that, then you can go.
What did she say again? About reducing
She's saying that they don't. The company does not need to pay a lot in terms of human resource.
It's somewhat true. Like, for example, if you want to produce something, let's say you want to produce a cloth. if you do it by yourself, by your own company, you have to hire an expert from the factory worker, from designer, and etc. But if you're outsourcing to the clothing manufacturer, you don't need to pay all of that. You just need to pay the fee of the making of the clothes and the material.
Okay.
Right?
Michelle, does that, is that what you wanted to say?
Yeah, yes, Prof. Hello.
Yeah. How say that? Yeah, you can argue in that way, right? How say, instead of having all the employees and pay them with the salary to develop the whole new product, you actually can use the service offered by those professional in developing those or offering those kind of service. So of course, it only save you costs if the price that you have to pay from those suppliers in the market is competitive. Is when it's cheaper, okay, rather than you do it by yourself. So this one, it could be an advantage. But another thing that I want to mention, based on Michelle's idea, is that you can reach how to say that, talents from many places. So again, if you are outsourcing, it means that you can reach suppliers from many different locations, many different countries, and because they are already running it professionally, they are the one hiring. They have more experience or know how to hire the best people with good salary to make sure that those people will work on the projects that they want to sign on. So that is why maybe the advantage for company, especially for new companies, is that you will have you have more resources and it can be more efficient if you find the right suppliers. Right. Okay, Ricky, you can go on another idea.
Other idea is that a small company can run their business with outsourcing. For example, is that my business back then I want to sell a jacket, but I couldn't do production, so I did outsourcings. So I do outsourcing and then I can create jacket, I can manufacture jacket and then sell it. So it gives a company a scale to reach.
Okay. Good. What else? Sachin?
Yes. Hello. Hi.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
clearly.
Hello. Okay. Um, the main advantage of this structure can means it can increase the efficiency of the organization.
Reputation
Uh, efficiency.
or efficiency?
Yes.
How?
Through the division of labor, we can assign tasks which is out of our skill set. We can assign to outside companies through which it will increase the efficiency and speed of decision making and production, something like that.
Again, you're saying that, can you make it slower? You're saying that you can have faster decision making?
Yes. Because we can access different types of skill sets outside which we lack inside in our organization.
Again, you can access what?
We can access different types of skills and resources from outside which we lack inside in our organization, so that we can make your decision much better and faster.
Hmm, I can understand the part why it could be better, but why could it be faster? Because I can say that you have to work with different suppliers or parties or partners to have the finished products, for example. So basically, you're depending on those parties. So when you want to make a decision, you also need to make sure that you got all the information from those partners and maybe sometimes even their approval of some specific activities. So how come that can make your decision faster?
Mm. I'm thinking.
Okay, you can keep thinking and maybe tell me the answer later. I'm gonna ask someone else. Sonia. Sonia,
Yes.
do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah.
And so no idea?
Um, so I can answer later.
Huh? What are you saying? Can you say it louder?
I can answer in later.
Answer later.
Yeah.
Later on
For
for the advantages.
um
Well, I'm letting Sachin answer later because I'm arguing against his opinion. Esther,
Yes.
yeah,
Uh,
give me an
I
idea.
think they don't need to they don't need to buy the computer or something in their company, or they don't need to the office space. So they don't need to pay much money on the overhead cost.
That's similar to Ricky's idea, I think. Right, Ricky?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So what else?
I need to think.
Daniel?
Uh, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So I think it's faster for example, like if you are doing A and D, instead of like doing it by yourself, if you outsource it, the outside company will have like all the information that you need. So basically, at that time, you just have to give the decision. So it be faster to support like Sachin idea.
Good. Yeah, it could be. So it means that it depends on what kind of thing that you're outsourcing.
Mm.
So it's saying that how much you're outsourcing, right? So for example, you're saying that if you outsource, if you have a lot of, how say that? But I think that's quite costly. Why? Because if you are doing it with only one supplier or one partner in the in the market, then maybe they are only able to give you one or two options of what you should choose to make the decision on the next stage. But if you want even more options, then it means that you have to have at the same time more suppliers or more partners in the same field, in the same kind of function, so that you will have more options to choose, and that's quite costly. However, it could be faster. So it actually depends on the quality of all the capability of your partners, right? Does it make sense, Daniel?
Yes, it makes totally sense.
But I think your point actually is kind of supporting Sachin's idea.
Yeah, I said it support Sachin idea.
Yeah. So yeah, Sachin, I think okay, Sachin, do you have any other idea to support yours until now at the moment?
Like I said previous, I just meant that if we lack in some resources in order to make some product, we can use the resources from outside, which will help us like that.
Yeah, but actually that's kind of similar to Ricky's idea, which means that you don't have to invest in everything, especially equipment or facilities, and you actually can scale up because
Yes,
you
the
have, yeah.
investment inside the infrastructure can be reduced inside infrastructure.
What again?
I said that by doing outsourcing, we can reduce the cost of infrastructure inside our organization. The investment can be reduced down.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the same like my idea.
Yeah.
I have others, but I don't
Okay.
want to.
Try.
I don't want to take all the answer.
Who is that?
Professor Mio, can I try?
Who are you?
It's Nia.
Nia.
Mm.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think it's more innovative because when we outsource, there will be a lot of people who have different ideas. So, for example, in marketing team, maybe we can hire like visual communication design. So, we are as a organization, we provide our idea, our goals that we want to achieve. But in outsource, outsource will realize our idea. I think outsource more professional and have special skills. Something like
Why do you think that if you outsource, they can realize your idea?
that. Actually, if marketing team, I think they only have the strategy, but how to can realize we should um, have another team to make it to be like that. For example, like if we want to make a advertisement, I think it will
it will be hard if we do by ourselves to like shoot the talent, to make a poster or something else.
I understand what you're saying, but how say that? It actually depends on what you want to outsource, and it actually depends on your own capability or your partner's capability. So what you're saying that maybe your own marketing team has the idea, but to implement it,
Yeah.
yeah, you need another partner.
Yeah, another partner. I think we can outsource from like visual communication design. Yeah, like kind of outsource.
Yeah, actually, it happens
I
quite a
think
lot
if
today.
can I try to argue against Nia, Professor?
Okay.
I think if we follow Nia's idea, like to hire, to outsource another marketers to implement your idea, the cost will be higher because usually if when you hire when you outsource a marketer for like visual design, they usually only wants to do your work per post or per idea, so it will be costly for your marketer teams, for your company to have a outsource to like implementing your idea.
I don't really
Like
get
the
that.
cost for your company will be much higher, because usually those types of outsourcings, it's quite expensive. I mean, in real life, in practice.
Yeah, but it depends your company, right? If your company have like extra money or like the company, I think it's not big problem. For example, like then do you know the brand milk brand Denko Tulodif?
No.
I can
Oh,
argue.
Yeah, ngerti.
the brand like milk
Sorry, we are arguing in our language.
like that one. Yeah, Denko have marketing team, but for to make advertisement they use another outsource to realize it.
I understand. It's if it's a big company, but if you are just small company or just a startup, it's going to cost you a lot. So it depends on the scale of the company as well.
It
Yeah.
depends on
But
how often you advertise.
yeah,
Like if
also
you do it
it's
like
that.
really often, it's better to have your own market team. But if you just do it like once in a while, it's more cheaper to
that
outsource.
will be that will be okay. It's if it's only I agree with Ricky, once in a while. But if you keep doing that, like outsource a extra marketers to do your promotion at advertiser, it will cost you a lot. It will cost you a lot. Yeah, I think that's all, Professor.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, uh, I mean, in my point of view, is like the company not for startup.
It's fine. It really depends. Um, what you guys just mentioned, just some factors when companies have to consider for outsourcing, right? And it totally makes sense. But I'll say that again. I think Mia's idea again is similar to Ricky's idea. Because it means that when you don't have enough how say that when your capability or your resource are not enough for you to do everything in-house, then you try to count on or rely on some outsource partners who can give you comparative or reasonable price, right? So that it can save you costs and time and other things. So basically, that would be the biggest advantage of having your activities outsourced, right? There are a lot of things that if you don't have enough or it's not that necessary to build up the whole thing, then outsource will save you costs in different ways. And of course, when like you guys are saying, if you have to do it frequently, of course you do it in house. Is that what you do? Sorry, what we studied previously when we study why firms the existence of a firm, right? And that is why if you need to find partners every time, and if each time it costs you a lot, then it increases your transaction cost, and that is why in that kind of scenario, then you do everything in-house. That's transaction cost economics. That's what we study. So basically, what you are arguing makes sense. But, again, that proves that the theory is pretty powerful. Okay, so now we talk about disadvantages. What kind of disadvantages that outsource will give you?
Professor Mio,
Yeah,
can I add something?
yeah, Stella.
Oh, yes. Okay, so what because I think just now you all say that outsourcing, the main point of outsourcing is to cut costs, right? But of course it's true, but I think there is something more than that. For example, when a company is already successful and they don't really bother about cutting costs. I mean, cost is still important, but there are other aspect that is more important for them. For example, like I'm sure we all know this company, this shoe company called Adidas, right? For them, they outsource not how to manufacture and stuff. I mean, not only that, but they also outsource creativity. So I think, of course, they also have their own creative team and designing team, but they also still outsource uh, creativity from others, like
Yeah,
external. So I think, even though it doesn't cut costs, but what matters to them is creativity and new ideas.
yeah, I agree. And I didn't say that outsource, the main purpose is to cut costs. We're
Yes,
saying that,
but
yeah,
like just now we all are arguing about cutting costs, but I think there's something
yeah,
more than that. Yeah.
of course, yes, totally agree.
Did
Uh,
Adidas is outsourcing or collaborating?
what how say that, because actually we are trying to look at it from different perspective, and cost cutting might be one of the big advantages, but how say that, and that is why I link it to transaction cost economics, because that's what we started before. However, what you are trying to mention actually is what Stella mentioned is another kind of advantage that outsource can give us. It's the flexibility and adaptation, because you are asking others, you're not only relying on your own team or capability to innovate. And so okay, wait a minute. Here, okay, the third point. uh, I plan to show this one after we discuss the disadvantages. But yeah, I think it's okay. So it increased flexibility and responsiveness for companies. And actually, this is Stella's point, I think. Right, Stella?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And another one is reduce administrative costs. So this one is more like Esther's idea about head costs or something like that. So yeah, how about disadvantages? There should be disadvantages for companies. So
Can
who?
I try to answer?
Yeah.
Like it's limited control of the employee that we outsources and limited flexibility, because when we outsource task or employee to another company, we may have a limited control and flexibility because we have different contract and agreements. For example, if we are a tech company and we are doing outsource to another tech company to finish our task, we may have a less control over the software procedure or the protocols or the scheduling or the hiring practices. Also, it will limit how much flexibility in the project that we have to maneuver. And then we also may have a less control over the party contracted that working offsite, some things like that.
Yeah, yeah, true. Totally makes sense. What else?
Um,
It's fine. Let me
what
ask someone
else?
else.
Other is if you
Okay.
are too dependent on this one source, that if this one source is closed or increase their price or there's something happen that you cannot do anything after that.
So you're saying that if you only have one or few partners to rely on.
Yeah, that's correct.
Could be.
Yeah, this
But
happened to me.
it also could happen that because you're outsourcing, so you actually have a lot of options of who to choose and change to whom.
It's true, but that's why I told you if you only have one source, one partner, it's a bad thing.
Okay, what else? Who else I didn't call today?
Culture, maybe there's a different types of culture that the outsource. If we outsource a employee, maybe they don't really understand our culture. There will be a problem. Maybe, I don't know. Just trying to answer.
Yeah, it is. It is because you actually are not having much culture built in your own organization. You are having people working on your projects by project rather than for your company. So of course it is, and because if you only have a small headquarters, then maybe it's also pretty hard for you to really build up something like how to say that long run strong culture because everyone how to say that majority of the work is done by outsiders. So yeah, it could make sense. And because you're outsourcing, so those outsiders they based on different criteria to finish or achieve the goals or the targets that you told them rather than considering your cultural factors that you may want to include in the products or the service that you need to deliver to your customers as the finished product. So it could make sense that way. Okay, so disadvantage. One is little control. Second is you actually have to spend great deal of time to manage your partners. And like I mentioned, this one is from the perspective of transaction cost economics. And then we have the failure possibility if your suppliers fail. Okay, so this one can be somehow linked to Ricky's idea. If you only rely on one or a few partners, then your interdependence on them is pretty high, and you may have weak corporate culture and employee loyalty. So now we move to the last one, which is called the hybrid structure. So, like its name, hybrid is when you have a combination, right? The birth of something else from the original, maybe two different kinds. So it's a combination of various structure approach. And in this structure, the company will try to customize, to tailor different parts of its organization structure to specific needs, maybe of different branch, divisions, or units. So it's often used in rapidly changing environments and it offers greater flexibility. So we can look at this one. This is a hybrid structure example. So left-hand side, you can see that we do have president, and then we have the second level is functional structure. We have chief counsel, HR, tech, and finance. However, in the lower level, you have the product structure, which was more like the divisional structure like we started before because it is based on different product offering. So it means that all the resources in terms of human resource, in terms of technology, blah blah, will be utilized and will be used and assigned to support the development or the distribution of different kinds of products. And so look at the right hand side. We have again functional structure, finance, strategy, communication, human resources, but the lower part we have horizontal structure, so that we know that what kind of processes, what kind of main business activities that we need to perform to deliver value maybe to different group of customers. So based on that, you will have different process owners and you have different teams for each process. So again, strategy and communication, human resource or finance here, it will be like the pool of resources that will be utilized for the whole company. But again, you also will have specific talents for specific teams. And this one is just a very simple illustration of Ford Customer Service Division. It could be much, much more complex. And this one is just for one division only. So imagine that for the whole company, it will be very different. For example, different branch and from headquarters to branch, maybe a kind of structure. From branch to different kinds of products, maybe a different kind of structure, and maybe for each geographic division, they may have different kind of structure. So that is when we have different kind of combinations, and that is when we say it's a hybrid structure. So again, we look at this one. This one is an overview of all types of structure that we've studied or covered in this chapter. So left-hand side is more towards vertical structure or vertical emphasis. And right-hand side, moving to the right-hand side, will be more horizontal oriented. So like we mentioned before, when we emphasize vertical, we emphasize control, efficiency, stability, and reliability. And horizontal is to promote learning, innovation, adaptation, or whatever, related to organic mechanism, like we studied before. So you can see that functional structure on the left-hand side, upper left, was the most typical one of vertical oriented structure. And then we have functional with some cross-functional teams or integrators, like I mentioned before, maybe some personnel who will have the extra roles to collaborate, so to make sure the collaboration or communication between different departments. So this is when it moves towards a more horizontal orientation. And then we have divisional structure, matrix structure, horizontal structure, and last, virtual network structure. So that is why, based on this kind of categorization, you can see that virtual network will be the ones that give you highest kind of flexibility, because you can obtain resources from many different sources, and you have the flexibility to change whenever it doesn't fit you. So that is why it's more, it's more suitable for companies who focus on outsourcing. But for companies who want to do in-house, then the best way or the most innovative structure will be horizontal structure. Okay, but again, it really depends on the demand of the company. So now these are just a few symptoms of that shows when an organization structure is not working well. Okay, so firstly is if the decision making is delayed or lacking in terms of quality. So it's saying that people who should make the decision is not receiving enough information or receiving bad quality information, which leads to bad quality decision. And second is if the organization is very slow in responding to changes in terms of from the external environment. So it means that the structure itself is becoming a delaying process or delaying mechanism that slow down the whole organization. A third one is if the employee performance declines and the goals are not being met. And last is too much conflicts. So too much conflicts or too much confusions in terms of authorities, or too much, too much conflicts in terms of communication or collaboration also could be the consequence of, defective structure design. So lastly, again, when an organization trying to design its structure, it must make sure that this structure provides a framework of responsibility, okay, and reporting relationships, and make sure that they link out the organization into a goal. So that is why when you see an organization chart, you have to know what kind of business activities are included, who will have the power to design, who reports to whom, and the function or the contribution of each teams or each departments or each units to the achievement of the whole organizational goal. And second is that managers must find the right balance between the vertical control and horizontal coordination. It doesn't say, and we should not have the, how say that, we should not have the bias perspective that horizontal coordination or horizontal structure will be the best or will be better than others, because it really, really, really depends on the organization demand itself. Okay, many companies, after they try to adapt matrix structure or horizontal coordination, they fail and they have to go back, or they figure out that it's too costly and they cannot afford different kind of costs, even in terms of time and in terms of decrease of employees' performance. And they have to go back to a more traditional approach, just like functional or divisional structure, because again, it depends on the human factor and it depends on the quality of their work performance. They have to try to make sure that they have the right mix. And that is why hybrid structure or a hybrid approach may be the best way, because it means that the manager should be very flexible in considering how they design the structure. Okay, vertical control or functional structure is not something bad or is not the worst one. Each kind of structure will have its own advantages and disadvantages. And the job of the managers, or those who design the structure of the organization, is to make sure they are aware of those factors, of those characteristics, and aware of what they need. Okay, so that would be all for the lecture of organizational structures. And do you guys have any questions for this one?
No, not yet.
Stella, any question?
No, 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 no.
Okay, so if not, then we have 10 minutes break again, and then we come back with the new chapter. Okay, guys, let's come back for the next chapter. We talk about the external environment, and actually it's about how organizations analyze their external environment, how they categorize different kind of environments, and what they should do to cope with the uncertainties or the requirements from the environment. So those are the three things that we are going to cover in this chapter. However, of course, today I think we will not cover all of them, maybe just the first part. And so in here, I'm going to ask more questions to analyze about external environment. This one is quite simple. So you can look at this figure. This is different sector that may influence an organization. And the logic is that all the elements that exist outside the boundary of the organization and have the potential to affect all or part of the organization will be included in these how say that, big picture. So you can see before we talk about different groups of stakeholders, right? So the idea is quite similar. You will have different forces in the environment that somehow will relate to their benefits, will relate to the operation of your organization, or their changes will influence how you make the decision. So in here we have a lot, but for each sector, I think it's quite easy to illustrate with example. So now we go to the first one, which is the industry sector, or we say that's the industry landscape. So the characteristics of the industry that you are trying to compete will, for example, the number of competitors, industry size, how say that's the related technologies, related service, related industries. All of these factors can somehow shape the decision of your organization. Shape the decision here means that maybe in your strategy, maybe in terms of your structure, okay, like we just studied before, and maybe in terms of your next move. So any kind of decision may be influenced by these specific factors. So I want to, let me see. I'll give you some example for this first factor, and then later on I'll ask you guys. So industry sector, I think the most important thing that we can look at is how the whole landscape changes. So for example, before we pretty like big supermarkets, big stores for shopping, and I think it's just around 10 or even just 7 years ago, going to a supermarket in cities is still something people love very much, and they feel kind of convenient, and they feel kind of I'll say that, trendy, I think. However, in the recent last 5 years, you can see that there's a shift in terms of preference and in terms of how different stores or shops exist in around us. So it's actually shifting from big store to the smaller shops or even internet retailers. Even in Taiwan, you can see that now we have a lot of PX marts, which is how say that, it grows like mushrooms around the town, any town. So people don't need to go to Carrefour, they don't need to go to RT Mart, and they go to PX Mart because just in a walking distance you can have one, and they still almost have all kinds of products that are necessary for your daily life. So that's a shifting. And why is it? Because that's part of the strategy. But because people's lives are even more and more busier, and so convenience is one of the biggest factor that they will consider when they want to go shopping. And so that is why I'll say that they would prefer going to PX Mart, where they can have everything just like in RT Mart, from vegetables, from meat, even bakery and coffee. So everything that they need, from morning to evening life, everything is ready there. And also similarly, we have the internet, so e-commerce. And so that is why before we shop in big stores, but now we can do it online, and especially we can do it only with a poster, some paper posted on the wall or with a QR code, and then you can arrive the website of the store directly. So it means that it enables business to open and to survive very quickly, and it means that the competition also became very fierce. Another thing is Uber Eats and Foodpanda here. You can see that before we don't have it that popularly, but now it's like part of your daily life. And not just in Taiwan, it's also in other Asian countries. So it means that the whole industry sector is also shifting, and it influences, of course, for example, restaurants. Many restaurants, they actually claim that the money that they earned from cooperation with Uber Eats or Foodpanda is really, really just a small amount. But they still want to do it. Because they feel the pressure from other restaurants who also engage in this kind of platform, because they want to increase the exposure of customers to their shops, to their names, so that it's kind of becoming a trend that they feel that if they don't follow, they may be left out. So only some very traditional shops that they are not willing to adapt this kind of new technology, or because they already have very, very good business, then they don't want to engage. But you can see that this kind of disruptive changes in terms of the whole landscape of the industry can influence how business run or operates. So we move to another one, maybe for raw material sector. So this one will be related to suppliers, manufacturers, real estate, or other kind of services that, of course, relate more about the inputs of your production, right, or your service. So, for example, this is an example from the textbook. Until mid-1960s, then for the drinks, for the beverage can, it was still made of steel. However, then the Reynolds Aluminum Company, they had a huge recycling program of aluminum. So by that, it gained cheaper source of raw materials, and from that, aluminum can become the materials for beverage can. And so it also shifts the whole raw material sector of beverage can. And that is why they can gain very price competitive offer compared to the traditional steel material. Another one is human resource sector. So this one will be related to the labor market, right? And for example, also employment agencies, universities, training schools, employees in other companies, unionizations, etc. So I want someone to give me examples of how human resource sector influence, or how changes in human resource sector may influence the organization. Anyone? Who else starting last? Rachel. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Um,
the human research sector, I think it's like employee training agency.
I want example.
Oh,
Nothing?
I'm sorry, I have nothing in my mind right now.
Catherine?
Yeah. Mm, I think in here,
Professor, this is Joanna. Can I try to answer?
Yeah, sure.
I think human resource sector will influence the organization when they recruit the wrong employer. No, and when they recruit wrong staff or member to work.
Yeah, but that means that it's not coming from the environment, it's your organization problem.
Oh. How about human resource can't adapt to the changing, ever-changing society. Like nowadays, they need to have some regulation that adapt to COVID and work from home.
That would be.
So their regulation or their strategy may influence the organization.
Who regulation and strategy will influence the organization?
Like the human resource manager, when they set the regulation of like when they decide if the employees need to work from home or not.
So again, it's the decision of the organization. It's not coming from the impact of the environment.
Okay.
Okay, let me show you. For example, you can put that because the nowadays, especially young people, they prefer to have flexibility at work. So they may prefer to have to be allowed to work from home, or to have flexible schedule as long as they can guarantee the quality of their job performance. So because this kind of trends in terms of preference of the human resource sector, then companies need to change in the way they handle human resources, in the way they handle employees' performance, in the way they handle their schedule, or the way they evaluate their performance, rather than having the strict rules and indicators like in the past. So that is how you link how changes in terms of human resource from the outside, from the external environment, to how companies make the decision or change their regulations. Understand? That is how I want you guys to give me the example. So I want another example in terms of human resource sector.
May I try?
Yeah.
I will give an example about labor market. For example, if there's many people like to study marketing, so that the environment have a lot of marketers, and in marketing, in the perspective of a marketer, they have to be proficient in doing marketing tasks. But in the side of a company, they can hire a marketer with a low wage. Can you guess my idea?
I think so, and I think that's actually what we are having now. Even in Vietnam, we have a lot of people studying marketing and like marketing. So that is why the supply and demand in terms of human resource, in terms of marketing, is kind of imbalanced. And somehow it's good for companies, right? Because people doing marketing job in Vietnam actually don't have very good salary if they are not a very senior or not very outstanding. So it means that the imbalance in terms of the workforce from the market can somehow can help the organizations in this way to not to that they don't have to pay high wage, and at the same time they have a lot of options to recruit from the talent market. I think that's what you mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I try?
Actually the same for business also. A lot of people starting business, and few people want to engage in manufacturing, assembling, and all kinds of a little bit more manual or technical job. So because of that, we also have that kind of imbalance. Okay, yeah. Who else?
Can I try?
Who are you?
It's Yang.
Mia?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. I will give the example like programmer. Maybe before programmer cover everything, like we know like make a website or fixing computer, but nowadays
programmers have specialties such as data analyst, and then security development, or programmers for robot, machine, and so on. So when we talk about programmer, it's more complex to make something more complex. Yeah. So the point is programmers now have a specialized.
So how does it link to the organization? Do you understand my question?
Yeah. Let me think.
Can I give an example after Nia?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead, quick.
So I want to give example in universities part. So recently there is a new program language called Python that usually technology companies now is adapting. So back then, like in 2010 something, when Python become more and more usable, a company have to train a new programmer, maybe a graduate from university, to use of Python language. But right now universities have a Python curriculum in their courses, so it's affect how company needs to train before, and now they don't need to train more.
Yeah, so it's a good thing for organization, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So Nia, do you think that this is what you meant?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
Do you understand what Ricky has just explained?
Oh, yeah.
And was that what you had in your mind?
I don't think so. I think we
yeah.
example.
But yeah, I think actually the way that I understand Nia's idea was also like that. So I'm not sure if Nia has another kind of idea. Actually, it's about, for example, before we, when companies, when companies need to develop or need to have some new position for some specific skills, right, or knowledge, maybe it's very hard to find a perfect one or a qualified one from the labor market. But in time, if that kind of skills is included in the in education system, then it would be easier or accessible or cheaper for companies to gain that kind of resources in terms of human resources, and that could be something that that linked to the operation or decision making of the organization. Another thing, for example, you see in Taiwan we have aging population. It means that you will have aging workforce, and you can see that in Taiwan when you whenever you go, especially for even universities, in supermarkets, in department stores, old people are still working very hard, and that's actually a very a very sad fact, but it's telling a big picture of how the workforce look like in a country. So the organization, of course, they will be influenced, right? Young people, for doing those kind of, for some specific activities or specific jobs, they don't have much options because the whole population is not very young. And so when they want to hire the most available human resource to do some specific job, for example, like I mentioned, those cleaning staff or organizing things in supermarket, would be old people, would be elderlies, those who are still capable of working or those they need. And so it's kind of becoming like a typical scenario of hiring cleaning staff in Taiwan. You also will have something in Taiwan. I think it's very typical too that you have foreign workers. So that's why in here I put the agency here. So for companies doing business in Taiwan, especially those manufacturing, they need a lot of foreign workers because population in Taiwan or Taiwanese, we don't have enough to do those kind of jobs. So it means that companies in Taiwan, they have to pay more or close attention, or actually they are quite familiar with a lot of practice on how to hire, how to manage, how to handle foreign workers. And so they have to learn, or they have to have specific personnel or department handling visas, handling living conditions, quality of foreign workers. And also we have, I think this is a kind of a sad part that I saw a documentary film last year. It's also about foreign workers in Taiwan. You know, we have a lot of Indonesian, and many of you Indonesian are Muslim, and so how to say that? I remember the documentary was talking about like when they came here, they actually was very young, right? Less than 20 years old, and also they couldn't. What is that? What is the rules of the religion that limits themselves? Oh, I don't remember. However, there's an ugly truth is that they are at the age of their youth, and physically they also have demand. You know, not just coming here for working. However, many of them, after they got pregnant, they are so scared because they cannot have anyone protect them in Taiwan. And so they, how say that? They give birth to the baby and then they abandon the baby. Abandon the baby. So many of them, they were just left the baby on the street or in front of some, centers who take care of those kind of children. And so the children themselves do not have any kind of record like parents or whatever. So and nothing can protect them. I mean, they are not legitimate, so they are not covered or protected under any kind of regulation. They're just, something falling from the sky to us. So many charity center or NPO and NPO, they try to take care of those kids. And however, it's kind of sad for those foreign workers because they actually had no choice. Many of the employers, they even try to forbid their employees or their workers to to get married when they work here, when they're still on the contract. So that is why I'll say that. Of course, it's good for the business, right? It's good for the companies, but again, it's kind of very selfish. And those those people who came here was because they didn't have enough money and they didn't have proper education. They didn't even know how to take care of themselves. So they didn't have much choice when they come here and they want to live freely as an individual. So it's kind of a dark side of the life of foreign workers in Taiwan, and nobody is really care or is really aware of this kind of practice. However, it happens quite a lot. So to me, I think that to what I observed, the agencies in the agencies who recruit and help foreign workers to sign contract here are quite evil. They are like blood sucking, and normally they how say that they are not taking any side. They try to make the companies happy and say that, hey, we recruit these qualified people. Why those people may not be qualified? And so they also trick those employees into signing those illegal or unreasonable agreements about how they should behave or how they should live here. And again, they take money from those poor people. So more companies in Taiwan the documentary was trying to call for more consideration, more care from companies who engage in hiring foreign workers in Taiwan. Of course, I think it's kind of powerless, but somehow it's kind of urgent issues. Is that companies, they cannot just sign the contract with agency and say that all the responsibility will be on the shoulder of agency or of the labor. They actually should pay. If Taiwan wants to depend long run on in terms of foreign workers, foreign labor, and to make it still an attractive destination, I really think that the whole system should be changed, and the whole view about how to treat foreign workers should be changed, not just from employees, not just from agency, but also from citizens, from the whole population. Because I also see that we have a lot of stereotypes, we have a lot of mistreat, a lot of prejudice against foreign workers here, and that is what I think it's really sad and it's really unfair for them. They come and help and serve with their youth, but they are not being appreciated by those who hire them at the very beginning. So somehow this one is not influencing significantly of how people doing business in Taiwan, but because we mentioned this one, I want to tell you this story just to tell you that in the future, if you decide to work between these two countries or somehow you engage in any kind of agency, because you are international students and maybe into future international talents, we may involve in this kind of things. And if you do so, if you have any kind of position related to this kind of power, please try to firstly be more thoughtful or considerate for those people. And second is to somehow inspire or encourage others, like other agencies or other companies or whatever that you could influence, to make sure that this kind of awareness, this kind of perspective could be included somehow in the way they make decisions regarding treatment of foreign workers. Okay, it's kind of very sad, and children, they have no they didn't do nothing wrong, but they were the ones suffer. They don't belong to any country, but they don't know who their parents are, and they deserve everything equally like others, but they didn't get the opportunities. And of course, you can blame the parents, you can blame the mother, but she also somehow received unfair treatment or was not comprehensively protected by the legal frameworks. So the whole system has a problem, and that is why I said it should be changed from in different levels, from individuals to organization and even to the government. But because it's not that emerging issue, so people are not paying attention, and people don't feel the need or the urge to act on this kind of issue. So just wanted to be more aware of what's going around, because also for Vietnamese, we have a lot. We from our own countries, right? We have a lot of people from our own country coming here, and not as lucky as we are, but they are also working as hard as we are, and even harder. So they do deserve something better than what they are having now. Okay. I think I will stop the lecture here. It's almost time, and so for next week I will have the first hour to discuss this lecture, and then the second and the third hour we will move to the two theories: institutional theory and social construction theory. And so I think that will be all for today. Do you guys have any questions so far? No?
No, Professor, not yet. Or no?
Okay, so yeah. So I'll see you guys next week. In class, I think. Yeah.
Can I call?
Hopefully. Yeah. Ricky, when
Thank
will
you,
you be
Professor.
Excuse me.
When will you be here?
I'm in Taiwan,
Yeah.
and I'll be out of quarantine at 13.
Oh, 13.
But I still have 7 days of self-management, so technically I cannot come to the class, except everyone keep quiet about it.
So you will be able to join classes on.
Technically, I should be join the class at 20, but if you guys allow it, and no one say anything about me coming to school, I can join the next week class.
No, you come on 20 is fine.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. But you need to check the recordings of our class.
Yes, I will.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk to you later about your attendance. Okay. So I see you guys.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye bye,
Prof.
Prof.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.